So with our airbrush all nice and clean, we're ready to move along and actually put a gloss coat down. Again, as always, you know, this is the floor cleaner, the pledge. You know, go to Genesis Models Forum. There's a big post on it with loads and loads of information. It does change hands quite a little bit, different sort of labels and stuff. If you're not too happy with that, there is good old Alclads 2 Lacquers Aqua Gloss. It's basically very similar. It's just that this is an actual product for scale modeling that you go out and buy. It's totally up to you. But what we basically do, it's really nice and thin. It's ready to go, right? No need to do any thinning. Just pour it in your colour cup, and you simply, just like we've been doing all with the spraying, nice and light to start with, right? Real nice light misty coat. Right, and then we just let that dry, maybe blow dry it, and then we do the light coats, which is about 2 or 3 coats. Now, when it comes to glossing, the whole reason we do this is to protect our spray work, right? This is the whole sort of point, especially with a build like this. The problem with a build like this is because it is a very time consuming build, and it does take you years to sort of build, right? And to have all these cannons just lying around unprotected, you know, they're going to get scratched, they get dust on them and everything. By getting these gloss coats down, plain and simply, you know, if you do get dust on them, right, you can just brush them off because it's a nice smooth surface, right? If you scratch them, well, because the gloss coat, it kind of creates like a nice shell around it, so it's, you know, stops it from scratching so easy, and it's all good just to get everything a gloss coat. Now, I'm going to leave it as a gloss coat. You know, I'm not going to go off and do any kind of weathering or final matte coats. Really, I want to wait till the end when everything's done, painted, all these cannons are done and everything. I'm going to decide where I go with the weathering, but I will be putting a whole matte coat on everything when it's basically all done. So I'm just leaving that gloss coat on there so it's got that protection from dust and scratches and all that good stuff. So that's what I'm personally going to be doing. So with that now dry, we want to start gluing this on. I'm going to be using different glues for different jobs with this. So I'm going to start off with just simple PVA glue. Any sort of hobby shop will do with this. I'm just going to squirt some out, which, as always, the nozzles are always blocked up, so I'm just going to get a nice cocktail stick here and just unblock it a bit. I should be able to squeeze some out. With some of that squeezed out now, what I want to do is just get in a cocktail stick, and with these wheels I'm just going to paste some on. Right, we don't have to be mega neat. Neat's good, right, but a nice little bit just on the end of there. Don't worry about it, this is PVA glue, it takes a while to dry, so we've got time to play with it. So putting on our first wheel, we can just slide that on nice and easy. Right, now that, what you want to do is you sort of want to look, you know, is there any sort of oozed out PVA glue? So getting a cotton wool bud, making it a little bit moist. I mean, we've got a little bit that's oozed out to the bottom here. The bottom isn't such a big deal, we're not going to see that, but cotton wool bud, we can just wipe up that PVA glue, right? So it's where we want it, but not where we don't want it. It might have a little bit just on the end just here, so I'm just going to clean that up as well. Right, but normally these can get a bit scratched, right? These little knobbly bits sticking out the wheel just there, they can get a bit scratched putting the wheel on, so I do sort of normally give them a little bit of a touch up using a paintbrush, using our paint that we've used, and touch it up. However, that one hasn't scratched, so that's okay, and we want to do that with all the wheels. And obviously PVA glue takes a bit longer to dry, so we've got to wait for that to dry. All our wheels are on now, nicely drying. What I'm going to do, just get out some normal super glue. Any super glue will do. Normally the cheapest I find is the best. Just on any sort of surface, a lid that you're not bothered about, I'll just pour a little bit just on there. And then getting out a cocktail stick again. I mean, there are super glue applicators you can use, but I do find cocktail sticks just nicely do the job. And what we want to do is place our gun down. All right, so just getting you on camera here for our gun. Right, and what we're going to do, getting a little bit on the end of a cocktail stick, right where we're actually going to be placing the gun. I'm just going to put a little, nice little tiny blob in each of these little areas. Not loads so it's going to ooze out, but enough so it's going to glue down. Then we're going to lay this down. I'm actually going to leave it on the cocktail stick as well. I'm going to let it dry on the cocktail stick. Right, and we want to get it positioned pretty sort of quickly. We don't want to be messing about sort of playing with its position. Right, so if you're not, I don't know, competent in your gluing, going down the PVA glue route is absolutely fine, because you know you've got time to play around, maneuver it and stuff. You haven't got that time with super glue. It's one of them, it's personal preference, you know. You've either got a couple of seconds to get in position, but it's locked down and you can move on. PVA glue, you can play around with it, get it in position, but you've probably got to wait about 20 minutes for it to lock down. So it is always a personal preference. Alright, so that's pretty much now locked down. Remember this little, I forget what it's called, the ring thing needs to be facing upwards. We can, if you want to be a bit sort of more careful, we can sort of get a little bit of glue just underneath here and just let it sort of suck in, and that should sort of lock that area down as well. Right, which then brings us to our final pieces, and this should be locked down now, so I should be able to just pull out our cocktail stick. Probably need a little bit of a brush paint inside there. As you can see, you can sort of see a bit of silver going on in there. And then we got these. I like to test fit them first. We might have a little bit of brass showing as well with these when we pull these off. As you can see, yeah, just a little bit of brass there. But you know what, no biggie. You know, a little bit of brush painting here and there after it's all been sprayed is a hell of a lot easier than painting it all as is. Right, so I'm just test fitting it, making sure that is going to fit down okay. Right, and then what we sort of want is some tweezers. We need to sort of be able to get this nicely in position. So again, what we want to do, put that out the way. Again, a little bit of super glue or PVA glue, again, whichever you're comfortable with, because you have only got a limited amount of time to get this in position. I'm just going to put a little bit of super glue either side. Just getting that super glue down, and then just very carefully we want to lay this down pretty much perfectly as we go straight down. Right, there we go. Maybe just press it down a bit just to hold it in position. The super glue should take pretty sort of quickly. And there we go. Just do the same the opposite side as well.